We're going to do the sign-in first. How do you turn this on? Okay, I'm sure. All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the press. Thank you very much for your and ministers. Thank you very much for your presence here. Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the press. Thank you very much for your patience. We'd like to welcome here in this room the Prime Minister Motley, President Kenyatta, and the Ministers of Foreign Affairs of Barbados and Kenya. We are going to have the signature by the foreign ministers of two memoranda of understanding, firstly between Barbados and Kenya, firstly one on the establishment of a joint commission for cooperation, and secondly one on political consultations. These memoranda, you will be given a press release on it, but they deal with mechanisms for consultation at the ministerial and senior officials level. The sign-in will, as you can see, is being witnessed by the heads of government of Barbados and head of government and state of Kenya. Then Prime Minister Motley and President Kenyatta will be holding a press conference immediately after. Thank you. Ministers, may I ask you to proceed, please?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let me first apologize for the delay in the start of this signing ceremony and the press briefing, but I think it is fair to say that the delay was well worth it, and the apology that we make is buttressed upon a platform of significant progress this morning and a clear recognition that we are truly on the right track for forging deeper and better relations with our brothers and sisters in Kenya. And I want first and foremost, President Kenyatta, to thank you on behalf of all Barbadians for making this visit here this week and for allowing us to literally leap into the future with the level of cooperation that I believe is possible in partnership between our two countries and our two regions. We had the honor this morning to discuss with President Kenyatta and his delegation a number of matters, most important of which I'll try to summarize some for you, but most important of which relates to the fact that we understand that while we have both been at different times victims in our history by common obstacles and common exploitations, that we have within us the power to forge a common destiny, not because of history alone, but because it makes sense to our people and the prosperity of our people. We believe that our perspective on a number of things is common. Kenya, like Barbados, has not the benefit of significant minerals, and therefore its people is its greatest asset. Kenya, like Barbados, is highly independent-minded, and I shared with President Kenyatta those words uttered by our first Prime Minister at the United Nations, that our nation shall be friends of all and satellites of none, words that mean even more today than they did at the time of their utterance, particularly in the transition of the world that we see and the battles that are taking place across the globe as we speak today. And that Kenya, like Barbados, is not a massive country, but is one that within the context of their region and Barbados within our region, I like to think that we both punch above our weight. And to that extent, therefore, we understand that our obligations are not only limited to the people within our boundaries, but to the region and the neighborhood in which we live. To that extent, we have the honor to be able, hopefully subject to the formal vote at the United Nations General Assembly, to be working with the Kenyan government and President Kenyatta, who hopefully will have to return to Barbados in October next year once we host the UNCTAD Assembly. Barbadians may not be aware that Kenya is the current chair of UNCTAD, and Nairobi was the last location of the UNCTAD General Assembly. And with us carded to be the one for the next one in October next year, 2020, there's a lot of fine-tuning and cooperation on both the substantive and the administrative and logistical end. Separate to that, however, we discussed the opportunities for significant cooperation in a number of other areas. Barbados has a large network of treaties, double taxation agreements, and bilateral investment treaties, and we recognize, as we always have, that we will never be able to host mass-based manufacturing or industry. But Kenya does have that capacity. And indeed, in a world where trade wars are abounding, the opportunities, and with the establishment of the Continental Free Trade Agreement in Africa, the opportunities for Kenya to be able to expand its production capacity and its industrial base are significant. But we can add value by being that location from which the returns on investment can even be greater because of the domiciling of the enterprises in Barbados, and be able to reduce their level of taxation while affording still the level of protection in terms of investment. We have common diasporic persons in Canada who have already understood that, but we believe that we can significantly expand it in areas of mutual interest, in areas of pharmaceuticals, in areas of renewable energy, in areas of the replacement of materials for single-use plastics, which all of us are banning because of their negative implications for the environment. And of course, Kenya is the location on this earth where the United Nations Environmental Programme is located, and therefore, and headquartered, and therefore our continued commitment to sustainable development and to making the environment within which we live a better environment is foremost in our mind while we look for opportunities for good business. And we feel that that partnership is there. We recognize that the opportunities for intra-ACP trade are critical. We were reminded this morning that the intra-ACP trade is lower than 20%, while intra-EU trade is in the vicinity of the high 60s, 68, 69%, and in NAFTA almost 50%. So what is it about the Africa, Caribbean, and Pacific countries that have allowed these obstacles to remain, that we do not see the commercial and economic opportunities within the South among ourselves and to use it to drive the prosperity of our populations? We also discuss the opportunities with blue economy. We discuss the opportunities for trade and investment in areas of marine tourism. Kenya, like Barbados, has a heavy reliance on tourism as well. We're both mature tourism destinations, and we believe that there are partnerships in training, in product development, and also in investment. Traditionally, Barbadians do not invest in Africa in tourism. Traditionally, Africans do not invest in the Caribbean in tourism. But there's absolutely no reason for it not to happen. And we believe that that investment shouldn't only be at the level of large investors or wealthy investors, but if we can create the opportunities. Kenya has led the world in financial inclusion with their work in digital money. And if we can work as well to create new financial instruments, Barbados has led the region with respect to the development of our credit union sector and financial inclusion there. And if we can leapfrog into a digital framework, and if we can at the same time create the instruments for the export of capital, for investment in renewable energy in Kenya, investment in industry in Kenya, investment in industry in tourism, and for Kenyans equally to invest back into Barbados in the areas of the traditional economy such as tourism, but also in the new economy in renewable energy and medical cannabis, then I believe that we will have a platform that will benefit all of us. We have also recognized the opportunities for cooperation in education and health, but without further, and the truth is the discussions were long this morning because the opportunities are really bountiful. And I don't want to go into everything because I'm aware of the lateness of the hour. But suffice it to say that we have an encounter with the private sector this afternoon, and we believe that we're going to be able to flesh out some of these areas. And we have an encounter tomorrow with the chairman of CARICOM and the Secretary General of CARICOM, where we will also look at some of these areas within the context of the regional platform, and we'll speak more tomorrow about that to you. But I do not want to take up any more time, sir, and I'd like to invite my brother, the President of Kenya, His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, to address us and to make the first of what I hope to become many speeches in our country and in our region, because believe you me when I tell you, we speak from a common philosophical perspective and a common worldview. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister Motley, and let me once again, at the very, very onset, just restate again my great pleasure and honor to joining you here in Barbados since yesterday at your invitation, and to say that we have had this morning a wonderful opportunity to engage with the Prime Minister and her team on areas of mutual importance, on areas where we believe, as two countries, very similar in nature, as she said, on two different parts of the world completely. But when we look at the similarities that we have, we begin to see the abundance of opportunity that exists if we were to work much closer together. As the Prime Minister has said, first and foremost, we share a common worldview. We share a common language as a result of our history. But most importantly, we recognize that as much as historically we are products of injustice, we need to work out how today we can work together to create justice, opportunity, and prosperity for our people. For far too long, our engagement as Africa and the Caribbean has been via third parties. We have recognized that that has been one-way traffic. We need now to strengthen our own direct collaboration. Africa and the Caribbean, and on a larger global scale, more South-South cooperation that is led by the needs and the interests of the people that we represent. And we had an opportunity to discuss a number of areas. We could have gone on, I believe, for the whole day and even into tomorrow. But we took the approach that we would focus ourselves on a number of key areas where we think we can make and have immediate gains. We talked on education and how we can collaborate more in education, learning from each other's different experiences. We talked about how we can deepen our cooperation in tourism, blue economy. But most importantly, we talked about health and how our young people can collaborate with each other and take advantage of our learning institutions and our interns in terms of developing their practical expertise in our respective countries. But we recognized also that in order to really deepen people-to-people engagements between the people of our two countries, we also really need to focus on economic collaboration. How do we get our business people to cross-invest? How do we get our business people to do more trade with one another? Because if we were to succeed in that, we have actually succeeded in joining our two regions at the hip. We talked about how we would be able to push together, especially in terms of shipping logistics. How can we take advantage of our respective locations to boost that business for the benefit of our people? So, Prime Minister, for me, this has been not just a great experience from a nostalgic or historic point of view, but also a great eye-opener as to the tremendous potential that exists if we come together. We have agreed that we will not lead from the rear. We're going to lead from the front. We want to lead our respective regions from the front. We want to be the pioneers. We want to give the political will that is necessary, that will ensure that we bring our people closer together. And with that regard, my sister here, I have a good champion. A champion who believes that this is indeed the time for Africa and her diaspora. But that can only happen if we come together, stand together, and work together for the benefit of our own people. So, Prime Minister, I really look forward to meeting you very, very soon in New York, as we regularly do, and have our own sideline meetings to see how far our people have gotten. But more importantly, I also look forward to welcoming you to Nairobi at the end of the year, where another organization that is critical also for our unity of purpose, the ACP, will be holding our meeting. And again, we have agreed that we should not and must not be divided. The Caribbean, Africa, and the Pacific, we must stand as one. I told her of a story that a neighbor of mine often gives, that those who try and separate us always try to size us and say, well, why do you really need the Caribbean? You know, Africa, you've got more of a population and more resources. You'll get a better deal if you negotiate alone. The Caribbean, you'll get a better deal if you negotiate alone. And amazingly, you know, it becomes a fight of pygmies or dwarfs. What we need is to come together and be giants so that we can sit at the high table with the others, not necessarily fighting amongst ourselves. So we need to drive that organization. We need to use it as an instrument of our people's prosperity and well-being. And that is what we intend to do. So I look forward to welcoming you, just as much as I look forward to joining you next year as we hand over the flag of chairmanship to yourself and to your wonderful country, and promise you that even as we work towards the lead up, both from a technical and, as you said, from an administrative point of view, you can count that Kenya will work hand in hand and side by side with you to ensure that that conference is a success and our agenda continues to move forward. So I thank you. I thank your people for their great welcome and hospitality, and I look forward to partnering with you as we try and better and improve the lives of our people. Thank you, my dear sister. Thank you.
I think we'll just take a few questions, if there are any, or there may be total satisfaction. Any questions? No. I'd like to.
You were too precise. You were too clear.
I'd like to add one other thing. One of the important points that we also agreed this morning is the possibility for deeper collaboration in medical training, doctors. Our constraint in Barbados has always been and will always be the capacity for internships, because internships depend, there's a ratio to beds, hospital beds. Kenya's population is 49 million?
Let's say 46 million right
46 million. And therefore, there is far more opportunity to be able to have the opportunities for clinical training. And we believe we can specialize in the preclinical. So we hope that we can deepen that collaboration with the existing medical schools that we have here, and with the opportunity for more Kenyans also to be trained, because they also are trying to bridge the gap with respect to medical training, and that we believe to be of significance. We hope also that we can look at the multilateral air services agreement by the end of September. And this is where the President referred to us being able to bring the political will to create the economic opportunities that will compel the case for air and maritime transport. And this is our duty to do that. We know the opportunities, as I said, whether it's in the area of pharmaceuticals or opportunities for renewables energy, or to replace the plastics. If we can create investment opportunities for our people and at the same time create awareness, then people will start to travel and start to move. And whether it is directly from Nairobi to Barbados, or whether it is Nairobi through Accra to Barbados, the point is that we need to start it going, because the notion that the only thing that separates us is sea and not unfriendly territory is something that boggles the mind, because there are no two other sets of neighbors that would not naturally travel to each other. And we have allowed 3 centuries, 4 centuries of separation to divide us, and we are committed now to bridging that divide and ensuring that the Atlantic Ocean should not be regarded as the mechanism for the Middle Passage and the triangular trade to lead to the decimation of a race, but it shall be regarded as a platform for prosperity for people of Africa and her diaspora, as the President said. So, I'd really like to thank you, Mr. President, for your passion, for your commitment, for your warmth, because warmth also helps to build that bridge much quicker. I'd like to thank the members of my cabinet. I must confess to the people of Barbados that I felt a tremendous sense of pride this morning as members of the cabinet expressed what our desires are as a people and as a nation, and I'm sure that you would have too had you heard them, and to the public officers who helped prepare them for this morning's encounter. And I'd like to thank also members of media for, as I said, waiting on us so long, but I'm sure we will have other encounters in the next 2 days, and you will forgive me if I now ask the President to take his leave and go with us, because I want him to see a little more than this building today. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's right.